Okay guys, so we have the 2014 Chevy Spark here. The issue with this vehicle is that the driver's side and the passenger side front windows are inoperative. They do not go up or down. However, the rear windows do work. So we're going to go ahead and remove the door panel of the master switch and figure out what we have. But first, I'm going to go ahead and plug my power probe so that I can start checking circuits. I'm going to plug it to the positive terminal, and then I'm going to plug it to the negative terminal. Okay, so now I'm able to control, provide power, or provide ground to circuits, or just check circuits. So let's go ahead and go to the door panel and start this diagnosis. Okay guys, so we went and go ahead and remove the door panel. We have the master switch that controls the driver's side as well as the rear windows here. Okay, one thing I do know is that from the fuse box, I'm able to see that this vehicle has a fuse for the rear window and it has a fuse for the front window. I've already checked those fuses. Those fuses are good. They're not blown. So we can go ahead and eliminate that issue. However, I do want to know what I have in these terminals so I can at least figure out how this window switch works, because I do not have a wiring diagram at the moment. But upon testing this, I should figure out what kind of switch this is and how this switch is operated. Okay guys, just for a FYI, these are the two fuses, the two 25 amp fuses that are for the front window and for the rear window. They're good, and that lets me to believe that they're independently powered, the front and the rear. So let's go ahead and figure out what we have in this connector here. So I'm going to test this switch and figure out what I have in these terminals first with the ignition switch off, because I want to test it in its rest state before any voltage could potentially be applied, so then I can figure out which wire is the one that is required to power this switch. So let's go ahead and figure out what we have here with the ignition switch off. So if you come close here, we have the power probe. I'm going to go ahead and test wire per wire. I'm going to start with this green and gray wire. We have 0 volts, and the fact that this illuminated green is letting me know that it's a ground. Okay, so we have ground in that first terminal. Let's go ahead and move to the brown and baby blue terminal. We have ground there as well. Let's keep moving. This is a green and gray wire. We have ground. This is starting to lead me to believe that this is switched on by power. So it's switched power. When I engage one of these buttons, it's going to convert to power and operate the motor. Okay, so let's keep going. Let's go to these purple wire. 0.0. Now the fact that this circuit did not illuminate ground, but it's showing me 0.0, leads me to believe that there is contact here. But when I turn the ignition switch on, this is going to switch to voltage and supply the switch. Okay, the fact, now if this was reading nothing, meaning no reading, it would be an open, but the fact that it's reading something and not letting me know whether it's power or ground, I assume that this is going to be power to voltage when I turn the ignition switch on. But we're going to figure that out when we do so. Now let's keep going. This brown and baby blue wire is also ground. Okay, let's keep going to the other side. We have this yellow and black wire, we have ground. The black wire, we have ground. Now the wire that's the brown and yellow wire here, we have ground as well. Okay, let's keep going. We have this baby blue, sorry, this blue and white wire. Now there's nothing here. Okay, the fact that there's nothing here leads me to believe that there's either an open here or this is just a switch, meaning on and off, and in its off state it's an open, and in its closed state it's a voltage. But let's figure that out when we get there. Let's keep going. This green wire is ground as well. This purple wire, now we have nothing here. It's kind of weird. realizing the fact that I have two wires of the same color. But let's keep going. This yellow and purple wire, we have ground. So I know this is definitely a power side controlled switch, meaning that it's all ground until it's switched to voltage when I operate these switches here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and retest these with the ignition switch on, and let's see what our readings are. Okay guys, so I went and go ahead and turned the ignition switch to the on position. I'm going to retest this plug and see what my readings are now. So we're going to do the same as the very beginning. The green and the gray wire, we have ground still. Gray and baby blue, we have ground still. The green and gray wire, ground still. And now this purple wire was the one that I had 0.0 in. Let's see now. Okay, so the fact that this switched to voltage leads me to believe that this is the power supply, or a power supply, if it has more than one. Okay, so now let's keep going. There's still ground in that brown and baby blue wire. Now, let's go to the other side. We have yellow and black wire. We have ground, the black wire. We have ground. And also, I believe that this black wire, obviously ground, is the supply for ground, meaning that this is the ground supply. So this is what's supplying this whole switch with ground, is this black wire. So the fact that I have ground here, that means we definitely have a good ground. And let's keep going. We have ground on the brown and yellow wire here. Now this, we didn't have nothing before. Now that we have the ignition switch on, let's see if we have anything. We still don't have nothing. Okay, so that one we got to figure out what's the reason there's nothing there. Let's keep going. We have green and gray again. We still have ground. Now this wire here, this purple wire, okay, before we had nothing. We didn't have 0.0, we didn't have nothing. It was like it was open. So let's see now with the ignition switch on. We still have nothing. That's possibly a concern, but let's keep going. And now we have ground in the yellow and purple wire. So all the wires that you saw ground to, there's going to be some of those wires are going to switch to voltage when I turn these switches to its different positions, okay? But first, I just want to know what I have at its rest state and at its state with the ignition switch on, so I can figure out which are my power supply and which are my ground supply and what is my my actual controls here for these switches. Okay, so this blue and white wire, what I'm going to do, since this has the window lock, which locks the control of the window, you know, when you have a child in the vehicle, this is just a straight switch, meaning it's either on or it's off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probe this blue and white wire, okay, and then I'm going to press this switch and see what happens. Okay. Now the fact that I engage this switch and now there's voltage here leads me to believe that this blue wire is the switch for the window lock. Now upon testing this switch or figuring out what I have, I'm not able to access a wiring diagram at the moment of this vehicle, so I'm trying to figure out which wire is which. So now what I'm thinking is this. I'm thinking that there's two power supplies. Okay, one for the front windows, one for the rear windows, and I believe that wire is that purple wire. One wire has 12 volts when the ignition switch is on, which potentially could be the rear, which is why the rear works. And the other side, which is the one that has nothing, not even contact, is, I believe, the power supply for the front. Okay, which is the reason why the front windows are inoperative. I already know it cannot be a motor, it cannot be anything like that because both windows are inoperative. So we can go ahead and eliminate that and go ahead and straight figure out that it's something dealing with the wiring or the actual switch. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and test these switches while testing the wiring and see what happens when I activate this switch at the certain conditions in certain wires that I got probed. so right now we have the ignition switch still in the on position. Now I'm going to activate these switches here and see which side is the one that's provided with power. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the rear, because I know the rear does work. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the rear so I can figure out which are the rears and which are not. So help us get one step closer to our destination. So I'm going to start with the rear. So I'm going to go ahead and start probing the same wire, the first one, green and gray. Okay, now I'm going to start with, I know this is the rear here, so let's go ahead and do this one. Okay, so I know it's not that one. Let's go ahead and do this one. Okay, so now this is the passenger side rear, and the fact that when I go up, switches to voltage, lets me know that this controls the up motion of the window on the passenger side. And the fact that when I go down, nothing happens, leads me to believe that there's another circuit that controls the upward motion of this window, or sorry, the downward motion. So let's go ahead and go to our brown and baby blue wire, and let's go ahead and do the same switch. Remember, when there was upward motion on this green and gray wire, there was voltage. Now let's go down. Okay, so there's voltage when I go down. Okay, so now I can figure out that the green and gray wire is up motion, the brown and blue wire is downward motion. Okay, and we have already identified both of these wires as the passenger side control for this vehicle. Now let's go ahead and do the green and gray wire on the same row. But now we're going to go ahead and do the driver side rear. Nothing when you go down, voltage when you go up. So we know that this green and gray wire controls the upward motion of this switch. As you can see that it goes to a voltage when it's applied upward. Now this this purple wire, it's a voltage, so that's the supply. Okay, and now this brown wire and blue wire, we're going to do the same button here, which is the driver side rear. Remember, upwards was the green and gray, now downwards there's voltage. So now we can say that the whole second row, or this row right here, controls the rear. We have our power supply, which is the purple wire that supplies for the rear, okay, coming from this 25 amp fuse that's under the instrument panel. Okay, we have this wire controls the passenger side. This is passenger side, driver side, power supply, driver side. You know, upwards or downward motion. We already know that. Okay, and of course, if you flip it around, that black wire is the ground supply for the switch. So now we know that there's two power supplies. Okay, purple is for, meaning the purple on this row is for the rear, and I'm starting to be pretty sure that this purple wire for this row controls the front windows and also comes from the 25 amp other fuse, the one for the front windows. Okay, we know the fuse is good, so we got to figure out what's causing no voltage at this wire. But just for the sakes of it, I'm going to probe every wire in this section. Okay, and I'm going to go to the other side of the switch, meaning I'm going to go to the front. Okay, of course they're inoperative, but I want to see if anything changes when I do it. So I'm going to start with the passenger side front. Nothing. Okay. The black wire is ground, so I'm going to go ahead and just verify that it is good ground. And now we're going to go to the brown and yellow wire. I'm still at the passenger side. Sorry. Nothing. No movement, nothing. Okay. This blue and white wire we already know is for this switch, for the window lock switch. Okay, so we can go ahead and skip that because we're working here with the windows. Now let's go ahead and go to this green and gray wire. Still nothing. This purple wire, which is, I believe, is the culprit for this issue here. There's nothing here as I expected. And now this yellow and purple wire. Okay, I'm going to do one run down on the other side, on the other switch, to see if anything happens. Okay, no movement from the front windows as expected, because this purple has to have voltage to power the front windows. There's already a ground path, there's a voltage supply path for the rear, but there is no voltage supply for the front windows. Now we got to figure out why. But just to make sure that that is the issue, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just jump the voltage we have here on the rear. I'm going to jump it with this purple wire. Okay, so I'm going to take the voltage that's coming to this terminal and I'm going to jump it to the terminal over here so that this front can have a voltage path, and see if the front windows operate after I jump these two terminals here. Okay guys, so I'm going to use to jump these two terminals, and I'm just going to use this banana type cable with two PIC leads, and I'm going to put one in one terminal, one in the other terminal, which is going to basically supply one path voltage from the other side. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So if you come over here with me, the side that does have that voltage is going to be this side, the one that has fewer wires that controls the rear. So I'm going to put this in here, make sure it's a good connection. Okay, and I'm going to put this other one, I'm going to put it over here in this other side, in this other purple wire. Okay, so now I should have voltage applied at this terminal here, and now we're going to operate the windows and see what happens. Remember, the front windows are these, so let's go ahead and operate them. Passenger side. Okay, so like as expected, now that we jump the voltage from one side to the other, now this front side has a power supply, has a ground path, and now it's able to switch these switches to power when activated. So now that we have found where a problem could potentially be, why is there no voltage there? Okay guys, so I found this connector here in the instrument panel, driver's side, and I've noticed that part of it goes to the fuse box and other parts of the vehicle, and the other side goes to the runner of the door here, and then it goes to the actual switch. So the reason why this is important is because I see two purple wires there, these two, okay? And upon checking those wires, we have the ignition switch in the on position, and I'm able to see that I have voltage in one and voltage in the other one. Okay, now if these are the wires in question that run to the switch, we know that in this part here the voltage is present. Okay, I went ahead and checked the other side of the connector. Okay, these two purple wires here, and they also have voltage. Okay, the reason why I can't show you is because I'm trying to hold the camera at the same time as explaining to you, so I can't really probe them for you, but I know there is 12 volts at each of those wires, so the problem is not here, but we can at least know that there is voltage here, there's voltage here, but what I gotta figure out is I gotta make sure that these wires are the ones that run to the switch. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna test continuity from the wire here and run it all the way up to my purple wire that we have in question, that we think is a culprit. And If there's continuity, then we know that that is the wire that we're trying to chase. So I got my multimeter out here set to continuity, and I'm going to figure out which wire is the one that we're trying to locate. So I have one of my pins in one of the purple wires, and then I have the other one here in my hand, and I'm gonna go ahead and probe this purple wire. Okay, so we do have continuity. Okay, this however is for the rear. Okay, so we know that one is operative or operating fine, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch the lead to the other purple wire, and then I'm going to test the other side and see if we have continuity there. Okay guys, so now I have my other wire, my other pin probe in the other wire there. Okay, and now I'm going to test the front part of the plug here, which controls the front. And of course, there's no continuity because there's a break in the wire, right? So you're probably thinking, well, of course, we're not going to have continuity because if there's a break in the wire somewhere, there's no solid connection. Yes, but at least now we can determine that those two wires are the ones in question. Okay, so the fact that I have voltage there and I have voltage in the back of the connector, okay, but I do not have continuity from there to the switch, we know that there is an issue somewhere in here. Okay, because the connector runs here, okay, and then it goes, part of it goes through the door, right, and then it goes to the switch. Okay, so I saw a break here in this plastic. I assume people were trying to figure something out before me, but that's fine because now I can actually locate the wire in question, which I see it right there. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the wire in question, okay, from this strand here, and I'm actually going to check continuity from here to the switch. If we do have continuity from here to the switch, we know that there's no break from here to the switch, and the problem is here, which is where it plugs or where it goes into the actual vehicle, basically in between here. Okay guys, so I have the two wires in question here, as you can see. What I'm going to do is I'm going to probe one of these wires, and I already have the other side probe to the wire in question. Okay, I just want to see if I have a solid connection from here to at least this part of the door. Okay, if I do have continuity there, then we can go ahead and know that the problem lies somewhere in between here and here somewhere. Okay, so let me go ahead and okay, I'm gonna probe lightly because I don't want to open up this cable too much and, you know, create corrosion. So I'm going to just probe it lightly. Okay, so there you go. We do have a connection from here to the switch. So the problem lies in between here and here. And the moment of truth, guys, we have found our problem. So I was able to take this connector out of its grommets here and peel a little bit of the plastic here, and look what I found. Look at that. That's our problem. That's the purple wire that's supposed to carry the voltage to the window switch for the front windows, and you can see that it's still I can still see the other wire that was attached to the connector. Okay, so now that we have found a problem, guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a heat shrink butt connector to connect. Hopefully I have enough room to work, and I'm going to basically use one of these, okay, and I'm going to basically crimp this together. So it was a very, very tight squeeze right now. I ended up disconnecting the connector from the door so I can get a better grasp on these cables. I've already peeled one of the cables, the one from here and also the other one, so I can put my heat shrink butt connector. As you can see, we have made a solid connection. Okay, I went and go ahead and used a lighter so I can shrink this butt connector. Okay, of course, you know, the best way is to get a harness, but I'm not gonna spend hundreds of dollars on a complete wiring harness when I can just use these butt connectors and crimp them together. Okay, so now I'm going to put everything back and let's go ahead and test the system.